Hey there. So you've probably clicked on this video because recently you haven't been feeling 100%. Perhaps lately you've been feeling a little bit blue, or you've got this underlying sense of overwhelm and a bit of anxiety. Today we're going to be looking at 6 things that might be contributing to those feelings. So let's get to it. Have you recently been deep diving into your personal development journey, and it's opened up your mind about better ways to live and better ways to interact with other people? Then once you've learned those things, you're either super excited to share it with people around you, or you start interacting with family and friends and start noticing things that they could be doing better to improve their own life. I've definitely been in this situation before. I started getting really into self-help books and podcasts and things like that in my early 20s. And sometimes I learn something new and I look at how others are handling certain situations in their life, and it made me frustrated. During my 20s, I noticed that I spent a lot of time trying to influence and change the way that other people were. And I guess in my late 20s, I started to realize that everyone's on their own life path and their own life journey, and everyone learns different life lessons within their own time. I realized that I shouldn't be focusing on trying to change other people around me, because that means I'm putting my energy into something that's largely outside of my control. And of course, there's no such thing as perfection. So there's definitely things that I still need to work on with myself. So it doesn't really give me a right to look at other people and judge the way that they live their life. So if you're struggling with the tendency to want to try and change people around you, I'd recommend you do the following. Reevaluate whether you want to accept them as they are or remove them from your life. Set boundaries around how to protect your time and energy. So for example, you can't remove everyone from your life, particularly when it comes to people like family. So a good recommendation would be to set boundaries around how often you see them and how often you interact with them. The last thing I'd say is get curious about why that person triggers you and why you want to change them so much. They say that everyone else is a reflection of us. Sometimes when we dislike a particular aspect of someone else, it's a reflection back to us that we actually need to change something about ourselves. So how many times have you played out numerous scenarios in your head about how something could go wrong before you go to a party? Or how many times have you spent time speculating and guessing what other people actually think of you? What about if you're the person that wants to start a business and you spend time making a mental list about why you're not ready or why you're not good enough? I've got no website, I don't have any contacts, I don't know how to start a business. What will others think? What if the business doesn't work out and I fail and it's really embarrassing? And don't get me wrong, it is really good to take time to think through situations and assess situations, especially if they involve an element of risk. But a lot of the times we go way beyond what's necessary and we get stuck in analysis paralysis. We let the chatter in our minds control our lives. And rather than doing the thing and learning and improving through experience, we stop ourselves in our tracks before we even have a go. And unfortunately, the best teacher a lot of the times is experience. So my reminder to you here is that life is meant to be lived through real experiences, not through potential scenarios in your head. So challenge yourself this week to do the thing, even if it's a very small step. Now, this doesn't mean reading another page of that book, listening to another episode of that podcast, or doing more brainstorming. I mean, go out and do the thing. Set your camera up and film your first YouTube video. Send an email to that recruiter about changing your career. Have that conversation with your manager to ask for what you want. Take the action so you can get out of your own head and start moving the needle towards what's important for you in your life. You'll feel a lot more productive, and the more action you take, the more confidence you're going to gain. Trust me, coming from someone that took over 10 years to start my YouTube channel, you will seriously wonder why you didn't start earlier. I want you to really consciously listen to the conversations that you have with your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Do you find yourself venting and complaining about specific things in your life a lot? Now, we all vent, and some level of venting in your life can be healthy. But if there is a pattern of negativity in your conversations, it's time to assess how you can shift that story. I find I have phases throughout my life where I tend to do this more. And when this happens, it's a sign to me that it's time to make a change in a particular area of my life or in one of my routines. I personally tend to vent and complain when I feel stuck. For me, this has meant that sometimes I have to approach that person to have a tough conversation because I need to express my authentic thoughts and feelings. Other times it's been situations where a job hasn't been right for me and I've needed to move on. or it's been a sign that I've actually needed to do some inner work to shift my mindset about a particular situation. So I recommend either taking out a pen and paper and writing down all your thoughts so you can bring more clarity to how you actually feel, or having a conversation with a trusted friend or a therapist to better explore the sources of your frustrations. As I mentioned in one of my previous videos, change really starts with awareness. Our bodies are highly intuitive and have a really great way of communicating with us. But I do feel like the pressures and constant distractions of the modern society make it really hard for us to slow down and take a moment and listen to how we feel. These days, it's really easy to be so much in your head that you don't actually pause and think about, or you don't pause and check in about how your body is feeling. I've done this to myself a few times where I've ignored the signs and symptoms that my body is trying to tell me. For example, drinking another coffee when I'm already feeling really buzzed and bloated and dehydrated. Or another one is continuing to scroll on my phone when I am clearly really tired and ready to sleep. One of my favorite quotes is by Jim Rohn, who said, "Take care of your body because it's the only place that you have to live." Why don't you do a check-in right now and answer these two questions? How is your physical body feeling? Are you feeling hungry, energetic, well rested? And the second question is, what's one thing that you can do right after watching this video that'll make your body feel even better? Is it drinking water, doing a 20-minute workout, having a shower, or getting off electronic devices for a period of time? I really recommend setting a couple of reminders throughout the day to do this really quick check-in with yourself. Taking care of your body now means you'll prevent things like burnout, illness, and long-term health issues. And don't forget about the mind-body connection. A stronger body will support building a stronger mind. So this is a reminder from the universe to practice self-care and make it a priority to respect and honor your body's signals. Personally, this is something that I'm still working on, but boundaries are crucial for maintaining healthy relationships and a good balance in your life. For me, I think the most difficult thing about saying no to anything is how that will make the other person feel or how that will make them think of me. And honestly, I think there's no quick fix for this. It's not as easy as saying, just don't worry about what the other person thinks. So part of me feels like it improves over time with age and experience. I think there have been many times where I have agreed to do something I didn't want to do, and later I paid the price for that. The more that this happened, the more I realized how important it was just to be honest and express how I really feel to protect my time, energy, and well-being. I also really admire other people who are able to say no when it's necessary, and those that are able to confidently communicate their needs, because I feel like it opens up a door for me to also speak truthfully. This reminds me of when one of my favorite YouTubers, Ali Abdul, talked about the hell yes concept. Basically, when an activity or a commitment comes at you and your response is not a genuine, wholeheartedly hell yes, then it may not be the best decision for you at this moment in time. The concept encourages you to say yes only to the things that truly matter and truly bring you joy, while respectfully declining those opportunities that don't align with your priorities and aspirations. Setting boundaries is a really strong form of self-care, and it's a great way to ensure that your needs are being met. In today's fast-paced world, it's really easy to get caught up and forget to slow down and really savor the moment. How often do you find yourself going from one task to another, and then once you accomplish one thing, you think about what's next? Take a moment to really think about what you are rushing towards, and by rushing, what are you actually missing out on? Life is definitely not a sprint, and it's more like a marathon where you take your time, maybe even a slow walk. I really encourage you to practice mindfulness and embrace the art of slowing down. It's so important to take time to really appreciate the small joys in life and think about the small things that you're really grateful for, and also taking time to connect with the people around you. Remember, it's not about how fast you reach in the destination, but it's about the richness and depth of the experience along the way. I feel like I've seen a lot of situations where people around me don't need to be rushing. So for example, I'll be having lunch with someone at work and they will be quickly wanting to get back to the office or get back to what they were doing, even though they weren't rushing back for a meeting. They just had this sense of urgency. Or I've experienced it in myself where I'm walking to a destination and I've got this internal pressure to walk faster because I need to get there ASAP, when really I don't need to. I think just with today's world, there's information overload everywhere and we're constantly on So people can reach us via email, via text at any moment, via messenger. There's even just the amount of messaging apps that there's so many. And the more we get used to constantly being switched on, the more anxious we feel underneath. And then this anxiety drives a need to rush through life. So take some time to slow down and savor the moment. So there you have it. I hope that this video gave you some things to think about if you haven't been feeling yourself lately or you haven't been feeling 100%. Stay tuned for my next video where I'm going to be talking about some ways that I personally look after my own mental health. I will love you and leave you here and see you in my next video. And remember, well-being first, always. Bye.